Okay, today we'll be covering Math 2 Unit 9.2 Worksheet and Notes, which is basically multiplying polynomials. But before we do that, I want to go back and just review real quickly Unit 9.1, which is just some basic things about polynomials. First of all, we learned that a polynomial was any expression where we have a value a, which we call a coefficient, followed by some variable. A lot of times we use x, and that variable is to some power. All right, some quick examples of this could be 3x squared. This is what we call a mononomial, a single term polynomial, where 3 is the coefficient. Okay, let's write that down. Coefficient. That's a C, sorry about that. X is the variable, okay? And 2 is the exponent. And T, exponent. E-X-P-O-N-E-N-T. All right, and let's see. Let's go another one. Basic one could be X. X, where the coefficient is simply 1 and the exponent is 1. And of course, they get more complicated, like 17x to the third, y to the fourth, or even 15m to the third n squared minus 3m squared n plus 2. So they can be very basic or very complicated. We talked about where we have 5m to the third is what we call a mononomial. We could have 3x to the fifth minus 2. We call that a binomial. And then let's go x squared minus 7x plus 15. We could call that a trinomial. Mononomial, binomial, trinomial. And really after that, we just call it a polynomial. All right, in this unit, you'll be asked to combine like terms, like if we took 2x squared minus 4x plus 6 plus x squared plus 5x minus 3. Okay, when we're combining like terms, we're adding one polynomial to another polynomial. We're just looking for like terms. We can actually just ignore the parentheses since we're adding. So 2x squared plus x squared is 3x squared. Took care of those. Negative 4x plus negative 5x is negative 9x. And finally, 6 plus negative 3 is positive 3. All right, we might have another one where we have to subtract. We have to be a little more careful there. We could have, say, 2x squared minus 4x plus 6 minus x squared plus 5x minus 3. Okay, so the difference is this time we're subtracting. This one we do have to do some work on. We're going to add all of this and minus all of that. So we want to rewrite this as 2x squared minus 4x plus 6. But we're adding the opposite. We don't subtract, we add the opposite of everything inside. Or you could say negative 1 times x squared is negative x squared. Negative 1 times 5x is negative 5x. And negative 1 times negative 3 is positive 3. You see, you can subtract each term or think of adding the opposite of each of those terms. Opposite, the opposite, the opposite. And now we'll just combine like terms. We have 2x squared plus negative 1x squared is simply x squared. We cross those out and we're done. We have negative 4x plus negative 5x, which is negative 9x. And we have 6 plus 3 is 9. Okay, so that's basically a wrap-up of what we did yesterday. And now today we're going to talk about multiplying polynomials. Okay? there are a couple different ways we can multiply polynomials. The most basic is if we simply multiply some value or some number. Yes, 4 is considered a polynomial, a monomial, times x plus 5. Okay, we are multiplying a polynomial times a polynomial, or more specifically, a monomial times a polynomial. We call this distributive property, and it should not be too new to you. I really like to draw these arrows to show that the 4 is being multiplied times everything on the inside. So 4 times x is 4x, and 4 times 5 is 20. And there you go. Let's try a little more complicated one. Maybe let's do 3x squared times negative 5x minus 7. All right. Well, I like to think of multiplying the coefficients first and then the variables. So 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. And x to the second times x to the first. Remember, when you're multiplying the same base, you add their exponents. So 3x squared times negative 5x to the first is negative 15x to the third. And 3x squared times negative 7. 3 times negative 7 is negative 21. Oops, I'm sorry, 21. And x to the second times basically x to the 0 is x to the second. 2 plus 0 is 2. Okay, and of course we're going to get more complicated. We multiply a binomial times a binomial. Let's take a look at if we multiplied, let's go 3x plus 7 times 2x minus 2. All right, I like to call this foiling, F-O-I-L, where the F stands for fronts. Oops, down there. The O stands for outsides. The I stands for insides. And the L stands for lasts. Hopefully you can read that. Fronts, outsides, insides, lasts. So if we look at the two binomials, what two pieces or parts of the binomials are out front? Well, these guys are out front. So 3x times 2x is 6x squared. Next we have outsides. Well, the 3x and the negative 2 are on the outside of the two binomials. So 3x times negative 2 is negative 6x. And now the insides. Well, here are the insides. 7 times 2 is 14x. And finally, lasts. The last two parts of each binomial is 7 times negative 2, which is negative 14. And I forgot my x there. Okay, when we FOIL, we always want to look and see if we can combine those middle two terms. So the 6x squared comes down. Negative 6x plus 14x is positive 8x minus 14. And we multiply two binomials together. Quite often we get a trinomial. We've got to be careful of this one. We'll FOIL again. Also, sometimes I like to call this double distributive property because I distribute the 3x into this binomial and then I distribute the 7 into that binomial. So if we take x plus 5 times x minus 5, and we FOIL or double distribute, we go x times x and we get x squared. X times negative 5 is negative 5x. 5 times x is positive 5x, and 5 times negative 5 is negative 25. We combine these middle two terms, and they actually cancel each other out, and we're left with x squared minus 25. We call that the difference of two squares because we could rewrite this as x squared minus 5 squared, the difference of two squares. Oops, I'm sorry, we lost it there at the end. There it is. X squared comes down, negative 5x and positive 5x cancel each other out. The negative 25 comes down. We call this the difference of two squares because we could change this 25 to 5 squared and we get negative or minus x squared and 5 squared. So we call the difference, subtraction of two things squared. All right, so that is the basics. We'll get more complicated, but I want to move over to our worksheet now that you'll be doing in a few minutes. All right. So if you remember a minute ago, we just did distributive property, and here's what they call the box method that might help some of you out. So let's say we had 4 times 2x plus 5, and you needed to distribute that. Well, if you wanted to put the 4 in front of the two boxes and the 2x plus 5 over each box, we could then simply multiply. 4 times 2x is 8x, and 4 times 5 is 20. And then we simply get basically 4 times 2x plus 5 equals 8x plus 20. And I don't think you guys would have too much trouble with that. Sorry about that. So 7n times 3n squared. 7 times 3 is 21. N to the first times n to the second is n to the third. 7n times 2n. 7 times 2 is 14. N to the first times n to the first is n to the second. And then 7n times 1 is just 7n. That doesn't seem too tough and too helpful, really, but when we get down here to multiplying a binomial times a binomial, some people really like the box method. What we're doing here is basically multiplying x plus 5 times x minus 3. This is where I taught you the FOIL method, but some people like to do it this way. One thing I do want to take is, I want to take this minus sign. Actually, I should have minus down here. That's a minus sign. I want to put it next to the 5 because sometimes we lose it. Well, x times x is x squared. X times 3, x times negative 3 is negative 3x. And then we have negative 5 times x is negative 5x. And then negative 5 times negative 3 is positive 15. Now, how is this helpful? Well, we take the top left corner, that's x squared, and then we add diagonally. Negative 5x plus negative 3x is negative 8x, and we take the bottom right corner, plus 15. So that can be helpful. If we're going to multiply a binomial times a trinomial, again, it's even maybe more helpful. X times 3x squared is 3x to the third. X times, don't forget about that, x times negative x is negative x squared, and x times 4 is 4x. Moving down, 2 times 3x squared is 6x squared. 2 times negative x is negative 2x. And 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, so what we basically did is just multiplied x minus 2 times 3x squared minus x plus 4. We take the top left-hand corner, 3x to the third, and we add diagonally. 6x squared minus 1x squared is 5x squared. Negative 2x plus 4x is positive 2x, and the bottom corner plus 8. So if you prefer the box method, you're welcome to use it. I think it's a little bit of a crutch, and you can do without it as long as you are careful and organized. All right, let's do some of these together down here. All right, so let's start here. I like to think fronts, outsides, insides, lasts. So 2m times m is 2m squared. 2m times negative 4 is negative 8m. 7 times m is 7m. And 7 times negative 4 is negative 28. Combine the middle two terms. The m squared comes down, or 2m squared comes down. Negative 8m plus 7m is negative 1m minus 28. All right, let's go down and do number 9. X plus 8 squared is not, I say it is not equal to x squared plus 64. That is not correct. Don't do that. Everybody makes that mistake. X plus 8 squared is x plus 8 times x plus 8. And then when we FOIL, we get x times x is x squared, x times 8 is 8x, 8 times x is 8x, and 8 times 8 is 64. We combine the middle two terms and we get x squared plus 16x plus 64. We call that a trinomial square, and they always look like that, and we'll talk more about that later. There's another one right there. Okay, number 11 is a good one to cover. We're going to distribute that 4 in first, so we get 4 times a is 4a, and 4 times 2 is 8. And now we're ready to multiply the two binomials together. 4a times 3a is 12a squared. 4a times negative 2 is negative 8a. 8 times 3a is 24a. And 8 times negative 2 is negative 16. Combining the middle two terms, 12a squared comes down. Negative 8a plus 24a is 16a minus 16. All right, let's do this one here. You notice this is just like this x plus 8 squared. This could have been written as a minus 13 squared. But a times a is a squared. A times negative 13 is negative 13a. Negative 13 times a is negative 13a. And negative 13 times negative 13 is positive 169. Combine those middle two terms. A squared minus 26a plus 169. Okay, let's move on to the next page. All right, number 21 is always a good one. We've covered that one already. It's called the difference of two squares. You remember that one? Notice how they are exactly the same except 3n minus 4 and 3n plus 4. Let's see what happens when we multiply these out. 3n times 3n is 9n squared. 3n times 4 is positive 12n. Negative 4 times 3n is negative 12n. And negative 4 times positive 4 is negative 16. Combining the middle two terms, the 9n squared comes down. Positive 12n plus negative 12n is 0. They cancel each other out. And we simply end with minus 16. This is the difference of two squares, and you'll see that we could actually rewrite this as 3n squared minus 4 squared. The difference of two things squared. All right, let's do one of these little more complicated ones here. We just have to be careful. Let's take number 23, and we're going to distribute that p to everything on the inside. So p times 2p squared is 2p to the third. P times 3p is 3p squared. P times negative 35 is negative 35p. Okay, now 4 gets distributed to everything in this one. So negative 4 times 2p is negative 8p squared. Negative 4 times 3p is negative 12p. And negative 4 times negative 30 is positive 140. All right, now we're just going to combine like terms. The 2p to the third is all by itself. It'll come down. 3p squared and negative 8p squared is negative 5p squared. Took care of those three. Negative 35p and negative 12p is negative 47p. Took care of that. And the plus 140 will come down. Hopefully I didn't make any multiplying errors there. All right, one more together. Number 27, we're going to multiply these two binomials together, and then we're going to multiply the third one. So I'll just start by foiling the first two. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times negative 3 is negative 6x. 1 times x is x, and 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. Combine the middle two terms. We end up with 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. We're going to take that new trinomial and we're going to multiply it times x minus 5. So now the x will get multiplied times everything on the inside, x times 2x squared is 2x to the third. X times negative 5x is negative 5x squared. And x times negative 3 is negative 3x. Okay, now the negative 5 to everything on the inside. Negative 5 times 2x squared is negative 10x squared. Negative 5 times negative 5x is positive 25x. And negative 5 times negative 3 is positive 15. The 2x to the third comes down. It's all by itself. Negative 5x squared and negative 10x squared is negative 15x squared. Negative 3x and positive 25x is 22x plus 15. Okay, I went kind of fast there. Hopefully I didn't make any mistakes. All right, guys, that is today's first lesson, Math 2, Unit 9.2. Your job is to finish up all the problems I didn't do.